everyone, welcome back to the podcast Eternally Obsessed. I'm your host Rid, and today we're going to be continuing our Eternal character series, and we're going to be talking about my personal favorite Eternal, Thena. Joining me to talk about Thena, I have Lauren, aka at Little Miss Scarlet Witch on TikTok. She's not Thena today, but she's Wanda. And you know what? I think that's iconic in itself because Wanda and Thena are quite alike. So love Lauren. Love to see that channeling your inner Wanda. So yeah, beautiful cosplay. But yeah, thank you so much, Lauren, for joining me. But I have to, it's true. Thank you, Lauren, so much for joining me. And yeah, if you'd like to introduce yourself, plug anything, the floor is yours to take.
Okay. Hi. I am not supposed to be dressed like this right now, but here we are. I'm Lauren, or Little Miss Scarlet Witch on TikTok. I dress up as Wanda for fun. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But if you follow me on Instagram, you're probably aware that I'm a huge Eternals fan. And it's my favorite Marvel movie. I love it so much. So I know I don't seem like I have valid credentials to talk about this, but I really, really love this movie. So I'm excited to talk about Thena today.
Yes. No, you are like a huge Eternal stan, like crazy big. So we're very excited to have you. And your face is frozen right now, and it's like frozen in the most funny expression. And I'm like, I couldn't get a picture of it, but maybe I'll send it to you later. But yes, no, you're back now. Okay. So, but yeah, super happy to have you here. You definitely do have the credentials to talk about Eternals. Like I've seen you watch this movie a lot of times. So let's start off with Thena. Where do you want to start with Thena?
I feel like I should I have this crown. I feel like I need to put this crown on.
Yes, do it if you can. If you're able to.
It doesn't go on easy. It's super heavy. It's like real metal.
Did you make it?
No, this was I got the prop replica set. So my cousin and I split it. So I have this and I have Cersei's necklace.
Oh, that's so cool.
I know, because Thena and Cersei are my faves, and Kingo.
Yes, love Thena and Kingo. No, that's it's her her jewelry and her accessories are so cool. And then the magical weapons, the cosmic weapons she also makes are so intricate. Literally the one in my backdrop, it's so intricate but it's so beautiful to look at. And I'm in awe. I'm this is beautiful. It's art. It's a masterpiece.
It feels symbolic of her as a character because I feel I wrote this down, but I was thinking about her and I was thinking I feel like Thena can be described in a lot of opposite words that feel opposite of each other but are both true of her. So I wrote down the words strong and fragile because Thena, so it's this beautiful, that's her weapon, and her weaponry is these really crazy very gory ways to kill people, but they're these intricate delicate looking, beautifully woven, golden shimmery weapons. And it's so it's a perfect embodiment of her as a character.
Yeah, that's so true. And I really agree with that too, because honestly, when you think about the design of the weapons, they honestly could have just been designed as a sword, but they could have been this could have been designed with all of the intricate patterns without it. It could have just been the basic shape. But the fact they decided to add in those intricate patterns woven in with just the basic shape of the weapon itself just shows so much thought into how they decided to sort of differentiate each Eternal from themselves. And I that's not I obviously didn't realize that their weapons are symbolic of her character. And that's such an important point you bring up, because honestly, strong and fragile is probably the best way to describe who Thena is as a character. And I think that's in a way that makes her relatable to a lot of people, but also why I relate to her, because personally, I feel I'm a very confident person, but also at the same time, I feel very insecure and I definitely feel very fragile. So I think the dichotomy that she has within herself, it's it's such an important piece, and I really really wish, like, my one of like my main critiques with Eternals was I really wish they dwelled more into that with Thena. Like, I feel like so much of Thena's plot was around Mad Weary, which would make sense because the Mad Weary served as like a plot development for the rest of Eternals. But I also wanted to see how Mad Weary like personally impacted her. I don't think we got that, and like that's why I'm really excited to see how they further explore that, especially like I realize there's like so much to talk about Thena, even though she's not really, even though her personality doesn't really show through the film. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was like talking to a friend before this. I was like, tell me all the things that I normally rant about Thena about because it's all like slipping my mind. And she was like, "Here, let me just send you a Thena scene pack and you can just watch like her entirety throughout the movie and like maybe get inspired." And it was 15 minutes long. She has 15 minutes of screen time in this movie. Like that is not a lot for like an almost 3 hour movie. It
Mm-hmm.
for like 15 minutes of the 3 hour movie, which is
Yeah.
crazy to me. And that the fact that she's had this impact and become one of the like fan favorite Eternals,
Yeah.
pretty impressive for having that little amount of time.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like she's I could say about this I could say about this for every Eternal, but they're also complex in their own way. And Thena is also like that too. Like she's she definitely like has her complexity. And I think part of that comes from her struggle with Mad Weary.
Mhm.
Um, and so I just like I would love to see more of that explored, you know, how yeah, just her personal relationship.
Totally. And I think that, you know, it's hard in a movie where there's
Yeah.
what 12 main characters. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard to showcase
For sure.
different individual struggles of every different character. And I feel like Chloe Zhao did a really good job of that anyway,
Mm-hmm.
but also like that's part of the deal that kind of sucks about having a movie that big is that there are going to be characters that like don't get the amount of um like really deep delve into them, into who they are as much as other characters.
Yes.
So I think that a positive response to I think all of the like really how popular she's been is going to be that we'll hopefully get to have more of that in the future. When we
Yes.
see her again, we're going to
Yes.
get to like get deeper into like her and
Yeah.
not just her mad weary. Like her mad weary is a great point that you brought up. Her mad weary and also like her grief. Like we just don't see her grief like barely at all.
We don't. It's like, which is so funny because what if she gets like a Wanda type of thing? Like, we know how with Wanda, we did not really see her grief at
Mhm.
all up until WandaVision. Like,
Mhm.
that's where it culminated as. So I think it'd be really interesting if they kind of sort of like, I mean, I don't think they'd give her like a specifically a solo project, but if they sort of like had a wherever she comes next, like really focus on her grief, which I think again, like that's what makes her connected to Wanda because in a way, like Wanda always had someone, but she like lost that someone, you know, and like it was several people for Wanda. For Thena, it was one person, but like both of them didn't really have time to grieve any of their losses. Like there was
Right.
always something going on. And when Thena like now finally has the time, and then like Wanda, like when she had the time, like that's when Westview and everything
Right.
accumulated and WandaVision, you know. But I think it's just really interesting. Yeah, like we definitely need to like I really need to see like what losing Gilgamesh, what that did to her and like what that means. Cause obviously it did hurt her, but we didn't really get to see her deal with that grief. And I think honestly, I think that's like where her strong side shows more because even after losing Gilgamesh, like she still remained very strong for like the parts of the movie that she was left in. And she was like she literally gave Cersei that speech. And I think honestly, her conversation with Cersei was probably the best display of her personality and just her persona throughout the entire movie. Like I love that scene so much. It shows her like comedy, it shows her morals, it just
So
like her
true.
as a person just really shines through in that scene. And I'm like, I love that scene so much. So
It is such a good scene. Yeah. I don't know. I just think that she's like she had such a mature response to her grief. And it's really interesting because I think that I would argue that out of all of the Eternals, she went through the most. Don't want to like say that without thinking that through.
I think
But I can't think of anybody who had it worse than she did. Because
I
she's
think
from Mad Weary for the like a danger to her entire family for 500, 5,000 years, 500,
yeah, like
5,000 years.
5,000 years.
Yeah, I always get them mixed up. And then Gilgamesh just dies. And that's like her one support system, her one person who believed in her enough to like protect her and like stick with her
Mm-hmm.
and not like want to give her up. Like I know that there were other Eternals that were like, oh, we shouldn't erase her memories, but nobody was stepping in like Gilgamesh did. And obviously, we all know of their relationship and how close they are. And for that person to die, and then she has to go on and save the entire universe or the entire world, like, and just deal with that. I don't
Yeah.
know. So
That's a lot for like
yeah,
her to take on. And I think I don't even want to say it's like overlooked. Like I just think like again, like Eternals had so much going on. It's sometimes hard to like
yeah,
examine each character individually. And you're right, like Thena, when you like put it into perspective, she definitely like had a lot going for her. Cause I could also argue that, Icarus in a way, like
I was
even though
gonna
he
say,
was the antagonist, he
mhm.
also had a lot going for him because he did have to carry a burden, a secret for
Yeah,
so long, and then eventually like leave Cersei and then make like tough decisions of, and yes, decisions are made and they weren't rational decisions, but like he still had that burden of him. And I was just doing the Icarus podcast before this, and we were kind of discussing the religious trauma aspect of Icarus and how much religious trauma, like how religious trauma shows through his character. And then also like Druig. I remember when I was doing the Druig episode with Skylar, she was kind of talking about how Druig also has been through a lot because he has the power to sort of like control humans and like free them from their emotions of like pain and grief and fix them, but he can't do that. And so like that also like does a number on him, and then how he reacts, like it's really interesting how like each of the Eternals are impacted. It's
yeah,
funny because for Druig and Icarus, I would say like their struggles are more like internal emotional struggles, but like for Thena it's like more of like a mental struggle, but and also
yeah,
like just like it's a mental like loss, because
yeah,
with Gilgamesh and then Mad Weary, like all of them together, like, but we don't really see her emotionally affected by it. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And so
Crazy. She's just so strong.
yeah, that's where the strong part of her comes in. Like
Yeah,
she was sticking by it, and like she was able to help the other Eternals when they like Cersei, like when they couldn't, when Cersei was like struggling in her confidence and everything, like Dina was the one who was like, it has to be you, like you are the leader, like,
yeah,
which I think just speaks to again like the strength of her character. Like she's just so amazing. I could like
yeah,
go on a rant about her, but yeah.
yeah. She's just, I don't know. And that's the thing about her is that she's so like, I don't know. I remember this was one of the first conversations we ever had together, but she's so not your typical like female action hero
Yeah.
character, even though she is like the warrior of the Eternals. Like, she's not anything like a tropey, badly written, like typical female action hero. And I just find that so interesting about her because it just speaks to how the movie is really. That's how everything in the movie is, just so much deeper than the tropes that those characters are typically um, revolving around.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I love that about her. Like where like a typical female action hero is like, I don't know, very like sexual, always like in a relationship with the main character, um, like always they're always very like angry and closed off. Like they have these like anger issues. She doesn't have that. Like and they're also always like perfect. And she's not any of those things. She's like quiet and weird, but she's not shy. And she's like very graceful and wise, but she's not like in a like idolized way.
Mm-mm.
Graceful and wise. Like she's beautiful, but she's not over sexualized. Like she fits. She just is like the opposite of what you typically expect from those like female action heroes, and I love that about her.
I actually wanted to go off of that because you're very right. Normally, like the way that female action heroes have been presented and they shouldn't have been is like their their way of like showcasing female empowerment is like being badass, but it's
Yeah.
only like being badass through like their physical fighting skills and being able to beat people up, which I still think is like a very like admirable trait to have. But a lot of like the female superheroes, like unfortunately, like Natasha Romanoff, they lack that emotional debt of also being like strength, like strong emotionally, like strong emotionally in the sense of like you like the way you describe Thena, literally
Yeah.
everything you said. She's she's emotionally very strong and she's also physically very strong. And I think that's what makes her a warrior, is because she's both of those things. And that part of her being badass comes not only like from her physical, but also just like how she like her mental, her emotional capabilities. And I think that's like what you said is what initial MCU superhero females were lacking, is because them being badass just came from their physical traits. And yeah, it's good to see, but it's like I want to also see how they are emotionally. And unfortunately, like that's something that Natasha Romanoff, I would still argue to this day, did not get that much.
Mhm.
And but that's like something I hope to see more in the future. And we're definitely seeing that with like Wanda for sure. Like how
Yeah.
much like she's very badass in her powers, yes, but emotionally she's she's unstable. She
Yeah.
has issues. And I mean, like that in the sense like that they're like making them like more complex characters,
Yeah.
right? And
Totally.
so that's what Thena is. And I just think that's beautiful. And yeah, you're very accurate to everything you said. Like it's just hard to find words to describe her because like you said, it's kind of like both sides. Like she's wise, but then she like, and I also like want to touch on like the humorous part, because I think the two places where it showed was when I already gave that speech, and also the second one when she was with Fastos' son. I think
Yeah.
her and Fastos' son together, and then her conversation with Fastos really just showed who she is. Like just like plain simple Thena. Like her putting her freaking like hands in the toaster. I was like, girl, what are you doing? But also like this is so cute and wholesome. And I just love seeing that side of Thena. And I'm glad we eventually got that. So I think with the 15 minutes that she was given, they were able to create a really like complex like female superhero. Plus her relationship with Gilgamesh, which is like whole another thing we could discuss. It's
Yeah.
quite amazing what they did with the amount of screen time that she was in.
Yep. Completely agree. Completely agree. And she's just like, I don't know. Yeah. Like the way you're talking about how she's like funny, like she just is. And it's not like this, like, I think going back to the like typical action heroine thing, it's this desire, like especially back in the day, I think we're getting a little bit better at it now, but
Yeah.
like in the last 10 years or last maybe 20 years, female action heroes have been very like the idea is feminism means this woman is flawless.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that's not okay, that's not feminism and that's not representation and that's not what we want. We
Yeah.
don't want this like woman who is perfect in combat, better than the man, and emotionally like perfect. And she's always hot while she does everything, and she's just like just everything about her is like just like she's so good at everything she does. Like even if she's like great at combat, like that's not feminism. That's not a real female character, and that's they wrote her so well because she is great at combat, but and she's very strong with her emotions, but it's like these different like things that come into play where she's strong at this, but she's also breaking down here, or
Mm-hmm.
she's beautiful when she does this, but she's also like she has this really ugly side here. Like that's they did such a good job at writing her that way and
Mm-hmm.
making her I don't know. She's not like this like she doesn't have this like witty, sarcastic humor that like I feel like is typical of those types of
It's
um
more like quirky.
yeah, it's like weird.
It's a little childish,
Yeah, it is childish. I was thinking that's the perfect word.
which is
Like,
also even more funny because like you associate warrior with like maturity, and like
exactly.
yes, she is, but also like she has that childish side, and I'm so ready to see more of that because I truly think like her best moments were when she was exhibiting that, just because like I think it just like fleshed out her character more
Yeah.
than her character was already fleshed out. Because I like the first half of the first couple of scenes she was in, it was always like badass, like fighting, like warrior, and I love that. But then the second half was just so much more enjoyable of her because it was like, this is Thena. This is how she is authentically. And I like, yeah, I like always when I think, and yeah, and she's just like, she's so emotionally mature, but then she's childish, and it's like I just love seeing all those different elements encompassed in her and just
Yeah.
creating the character that she is. She's still flawed though. Like, I mean, it's kind of hard to find her flawed just because we also don't really know too much about her
Yeah.
and how she views humanity, because so much is just like more of her mental struggles.
Mhm.
So it is a little bit difficult to find a flaw, but I'm, like,
Yeah.
just because she like her decisions have kind of always been like doing the right thing rather
Yeah.
than really questioning anything. So
Yeah. And maybe she's not like it is hard to find like a character flaw, like something that is like bad, like mean or like
yeah.
immoral about her. But you can find like flaws that are like not really flaws, but just like things that make her more human. Like, oh, she like I don't know, like maybe she like tripped somewhere, or like maybe she's, just like things like that. Like she's awkward when she's talking to this person. Like I don't know, that's not a
Fingers
flaw.
in the toaster.
Yeah, exactly. She stuck her hand in a toaster. Like she's like weird when she's interacting with kids. Like it's not like flaws like this makes her a bad person, but like more flaws just in like these are the little things that make her more human.
Yeah.
Human, which I
Yeah.
love about Eternals so much.
Dude, we like gotta do, like, I feel like I really need to do an episode with you where you just get to talk about the themes of humanity in Eternals, because you have so much to say about it. And I'm like,
I
Lauren,
do.
you really like, we gotta talk about it because
Yeah.
there's just so much to discuss. But that's an
Like,
episode for another day.
yeah, it is.
um, but yeah, it's just like I kind of want to like touch on her relationship with Gilgamesh,
Yeah.
and I'm interested in your thoughts. So some people view it as like a platonic thing, which I get, I understand, and others view it more of like a protective like romance. I personally do view it like they were like romantic, but not in the way that Icarus and Cersei were, and not in the way Drake and Makari were. They were like the more like passion. Like it was, to them it was more about like Icarus and Cersei were definitely like more of like sexual love in a way. I don't
Yeah.
know. The way like very much like heat. Like there was like heat between them. But Gilgamesh and then Drake and Makari is more like, I view it like more of like a not that, but also more like a quirky teenage romance where they have
Yeah, it's like a
chemistry.
playful committal. Yeah.
Yes, playful. There you go. That's the word. And then
Yeah.
Gilgamesh and Thea are more like protection, more like grounded in a way. I don't know.
Devotion, like devoted to this person for life.
Yes, devoted. It's like a devoted. And I was like, but do you think that they were like romantic?
I change my mind every day. I just here's the thing. I went into the movie or came out of the movie for the first time very much like I'm so happy we got to see a non-romantic but very committed male-female relationship, because that is like really important to me.
Yeah.
I feel like our culture like idolizes romance way too much and puts it as like the number one type of commitment and committal and committed relationship,
Yeah.
when that's not true. Like there are so many other kinds
Yeah.
of love. And so I get really excited when I see representation of like unconventional friendships like that. Or like, I guess it's not unconventional, but you just don't see it in media.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like a man and a woman who are strongly devoted to each other, but not
Mm-hmm.
like romantically involved. So
Yeah.
that was my thing when I first saw the movie. And then everyone started getting online and being like, I don't ship them. And then you could clearly tell it was like a race thing, where it's
Mm-hmm.
all those like posts that are like, okay, but if Gilgamesh had been like Icarus, everyone would be, because he's like this beautiful white man, everyone would be all over them. So that side of me is like very defensive of them as like a romantic relationship, because I'm like,
Mm.
that's unconventional. They deserve to be together. They're totally different looking. They're totally like not what you see from a Hollywood couple. But
Yeah.
I love that about them. But at the end of the day, I think where I fall is I think it's more than either of those things. I think it's more than platonic, and I think it's more than romantic. I think it's just this like mutual respect and like such a deep love, but it's like you're infatuated with someone, but not like sexually. I don't know how to
No,
describe.
literally, like I definitely don't think that their like love and respect for each other is from like a sexual point.
Yeah, it's not
Like a sexual, like definitely I don't get that. For them
no.
it's more like it's just like the devotion they have for each other. It almost
Yeah,
just feels like it's out of love that they're doing it, the amount of love they have for one another. It's like you said, it's like a very respected. And I think that's where I see them as, and where I kind of personally also like think like, yeah, they're definitely romantic with each other, but in
yeah,
like a very like respectful way. And also just like the way that like Gilgamesh like took her hand, like that those were the small signs where I was like, I viewed this personally as romantic.
mhm.
But then I also understand why other people see it as platonic. So I'm happy either way.
Yeah, yeah, same. I think we're more or less have the same opinion here.
Yeah, but I definitely like view them as romantic. Like the way that
Yeah.
Gilgamesh was devoted to her, I was like, this man, which like I love Gilgamesh. I love
Top five
Gilgamesh.
Eternals, both of them, but nobody talks about Gil. Nobody talks about Gilgamesh.
Nobody talk. Well, we don't really like have that much of him,
I
but that's
know.
true. He's very underrated.
Don Lee is coming back, okay?
He is
So
coming
I'm
back.
hanging on.
He is
More
coming back.
Gilgamesh content, please.
People don't talk about Gilgamesh and Fastos enough, and it makes me sad. And I'm
Yep.
just like, they're both oh, here's the thing. They're both like Gilgamesh and Fastos very much like share the same similarity in terms of like devotion. Like Fastos is very much like a family man, and then Gilgamesh is like obviously like that sort of like same type of like devotion that Fastos has to his family. He kind of has that towards Thena.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I don't want to view it as like a man worshiping like a woman type of relationship.
Yeah.
I definitely want to like emphasize, I see it more of like a mutual thing between the two of them where they both are very much like devoted to each other. It's just that like Thena, you don't see that much from Thena's side because she is impacted by Mad Weary. But I still feel
Yeah.
like it's a very much like a mutual sort of respect and relationship that they have. I just don't want to be like, it's a man putting a woman on a pet. Like, no,
Exactly.
I definitely don't see it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people have a tendency to write it off as that real quick. And there's a lot of tendencies in Eternals to write a lot of things off real quick as like, I'm going to put this in this box. And it's just, it's not true. And it's hard to see on the first watch or the second watch, but you do see these little ways that Thena reciprocates. It's just Thena has Mad Weary, yes, but also
Yes.
they both just have different ways of like communicating love. I just think that Thena's way of reciprocating that love that Gilgamesh is giving is different than the way that he's giving her love.
I
He
like
is
think sorry, no, keep on
oh
going.
no, you're fine. He's like I don't know if you know like the five love languages, but he's like serving, like acts of service and like like giving, and that's the way that he communicates love for people. And then
Mm-hmm.
the way of like reciprocating that is, I think she's one of the only people who really understands him, and she provides this mutual like she's comforting in the sense that she can like their minds are on the same wavelength. And like I don't know, there's just so many little things where she'll like he'll like touch her back and she'll like smile at him, and she knows that he needs a smile right then because he needs that reciprocation and of I keep saying reciprocation, but he needs that like acknowledgement of like I made you food and you're smiling, and I feel loved because you're smiling because you feel loved by what I just did for you. Like it's just I just love them.
I'm so happy you brought that up because the first thing I thought of is when they're sitting in like Druig's whatever like barn he's in, and Gilgamesh is falling to sleep, and Thena nudges him, and she's like, "Wake up!" And she's like, "Come on!" And he's like, "Oh, what? Like, they understand each other, and I think that's like the biggest thing. It's like it's such a strong relationship because again, like we both keep on saying it's that understanding, and it really shows like, yeah, you're right. Gilgamesh is more like acts of service. And for Thena, I think it goes back to that emotional maturity that we see her is that she understands the other Eternals well, and she obviously understands Gilgamesh the most. We just don't see that much of Thena because again, most of what we see of her is mad weary, but if you like notice the small signs, it's there. And I also want to bring up what you said about like putting things into a box with Eternals, because literally in the Icarus episode we were having the same exact conversation. I was like, people have a tendency to watch Eternals and then put the characters into boxes. Icarus is the villain, Icarus is the villain, Arishem is not the villain. Like they put these things into boxes, and I'm like, Icarus is not the villain. He's not right, but he's morally gray. Like, but he's not. Or they're like, Sprite sucks. And I'm like, have you thought about like Sprite's perspective? Like, girl has been through shit. Like, she's stuck in an unfortunate situation. I understand some of the decisions she took, but like, you cannot like, again, it goes back. Watch Eternals, do not put things into boxes. They're like, and I was talking about this and I was like, the only characters you can really put into a box is like maybe Phastos and Cersei, because it's very clearly established what their values are and like what they really enjoy and stuff. So like maybe those are the characters you can be like, yeah, like they clearly have like one set of morals. And like other characters are a little bit more morally gray. That's like Icarus, Kingo, Sprite. Like those three are like, and then Druig too, to some extent, just because of like certain things he does. So yeah.
Oh yeah. I think that even dare I say it, even Cersei, I think everyone in the Eternals is morally gray and is like, or at least is flawed in their way of thinking, because the way that Eternals presents itself is that there is no really right answer to the problem. We don't know. There could be many right answers. There could be no right answer. And so I'm not going to get into it with Cersei. I'll get too fired up, but like, that's the whole thing is that like like with Icarus, I mean we talked about this when we watched Eternals the other day and we're going off about this. I think Skylar was not very happy, but he's just so, you can't box him in. You cannot. I don't know. I have a hard time with people who like hate any of the Eternals because I try to take a Chloe Zhao approach to all the characters, and I try to think about them the way that Chloe thinks about them and love them the way that Chloe loves them. And Chloe loves them all, and she loves them all for different reasons, and she recognizes that they're flawed, and she doesn't love them like because of their flaws. She loves them despite their flaws. She is acknowledging the things that are good and bad about them. She acknowledges that Icarus did a wrong thing, but she also, I think she has said the words, he carries the weight of the world on his shoulders.
He does. Like the way that he's literally described is like a loyal soldier. And like I think those two words in itself like shows like he's very dedicated, and that's a very good quality to have. It's just like the circumstances that it was in, it was maybe not shown in the most positive light, but also at the same time, like you do sympathize with Icarus while watching it. I sympathize with Sprite while watching it. Are they my favorite Eternals? No, but like I see, like you have to be like very nuanced while watching it. You have to kind of like see all these things. The unfortunate thing is people watch it and they're like, this sucks, and they'll not give it another chance.
And they forget, because it's hard to remember this when you only watch it one time and then completely, but they forget that the events of Eternals for the most part are the events of like a week. Like Icarus did one bad thing in a week, or like a couple bad things. Tried to kill Druid, he killed Ajax. Those are terrible things. He fought the Eternals. He was like,
Yeah.
oh, that was bad. But also, that doesn't mean that throughout like the 7,000 years of history that they all had, he wasn't constantly like trying to kill them and like
No.
terrible things. Like,
Exactly.
and like, you know, all of them. Sprite, like, if Sprite had like constantly been trying to stab everybody, like, she would
I feel like she'd do that, but for fun,
yeah,
you know.
she would do it, but it would be like kind of like a joke. I
Yeah,
don't know. Maybe she did constantly try to stab people, and that's why they were so casual about it at the end. Like she stabs Cersei in the movie, and
yeah.
everyone kind of brushes it off. They're like, ah, yeah, classic Sprite. So
Yeah.
you want to do it? I can make your wildest dreams come true. No worries, you stab me, it's fine. Like that's you. You do you.
No. I'm just like, they're so that's why I personally think Eternals is such a perfect movie because I'm love when like characters are so nuanced.
Mhm.
So and I love that about Eternals. So I personally view it as a perfect movie, but then people are like the pacing and the plot, and I'm like, fuck that. Like it's okay. The characters, I love watching it for the characters and how nuanced they are. So including Thena. Like,
yeah.
oh, I love Thena so much. I'm like ready to see more of her. Speaking of which, where do you think we'll see her next?
Ooh, okay. I am manifesting / predicting that we will see her next in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yes,
Don't think she's gonna show up in Moon Knight. I don't think she's gonna show up in Multiverse of Madness, which I know have both been talked about potential seeing Eternals again.
Yeah.
I don't think that she's gonna show up in Miss Marvel either, but I haven't really heard that one. So
no. I definitely think we'll be seeing her in Thor: Love and Thunder.
yeah.
The only Eternal that I can imagine seeing in Moon Knight would be Sprite with Dane.
Yeah.
That's the only Eternal. Because the other ones, it would just be very weird. Like,
yeah.
No, I don't. But like Sprite with Dane would make sense because she's on Earth right now.
Cersei, but Cersei's in space.
In space, yeah. But like if Moon Knight is set like along the same Phase 4 timeline we're going right now, and you know, he somehow meets Dane Whitman, I wouldn't be surprised if Sprite shows up just like as a hey Dane, how are you doing kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think they've said because they just released an official timeline the other day, so I'm pretty sure Moon Knight takes place after Eternals. So that's
that would add up to a lot.
This is slightly on a tangent again, but did you notice that at the end of Moon Knight, when they are rolling the credits, the next suggested project is Eternals?
Yeah.
Watch. I don't know. That's probably just because it was the latest Marvel project to be released on Disney Plus, but what if it's not?
It's so funny you mentioned that because when I was live talking about Moon Knight episode 1, Zoe said the exact same thing. She was like, yeah, the next project that was mentioned was Eternals. And she was like, I don't know, that's just because the latest movie to go on Disney Plus, but that's what was mentioned. And I was like, and also at the beginning, the Eternals were in the logo.
I know.
So they're definitely having some reference to Eternals or having some character, probably not the Eternals themselves, but Dane Whitman. But yeah. Do you have anything else you want to talk about with Thena?
Ooh. Okay. What did I have her now? She's weird. We talked about that. She's not a typical action hero. We talked about that. Yeah, I think just with seeing her in the future, I don't know. We touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but I think now, I just think it worked out for them so perfectly that Druig, Makari, and Thena are the 3 people on the ship that are continuing the plot, because those are literally the 3 fan favorite characters. So I don't know if they were predicting that those 3 were going to be the faves of the fandom, or if it was just a lucky guess or total coincidence. But I'm really, really happy about that because she's going to be, I think, very at the front of continuing the Eternals story immediately. Yeah. I think that she will be out of the characters we see the next of Eternals, I think she's going to be one of the ones we see this week.
I
So
also I don't know if Chloe realized this, but Thena, Drake, and Makari are probably the characters whose struggles are the least explored.
mhm.
So I don't know if like part of it they also had those
I can
three
see that
kind of.
being calculated. Yeah,
Huh?
without I can see her doing that on purpose.
Yeah, because the other three that went on Earth with Kingo, like people didn't really understand his emotional struggles, but also at the same time it was quite apparent like what was going on with him. So I think like they noticed that. And so it was like, yeah, Kingo. And then Fastos, we also saw like some of his struggles and we learned quite a lot about Fastos. And then obviously Cersei was the lead. So taking those three to space like makes sense. So you get more time to develop Dina, Dreek, and Makari, who from the ones that are alive, we did not see much of and we don't really know them. So yeah, that's why. Yeah, it's chill.
Okay.
Okay. So since we're done talking about Thena, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about Thena and Eternals. We're definitely gonna have you back for another episode because I know you're very passionate about like the themes of Eternals, and I would love to hear about that and also discuss it as well. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Go check out Lauren. All her social media will be linked below. Let's try to get her to get an invitation to the Multiverse of Madness premiere. So everyone do your thing, tag Marvel and all of your TikToks. She deserves to go there. So let's do that. And yeah, just check her out. Make sure you follow, subscribe, rate the podcast, whatever platform you're listening on, and stay tuned for the next Eternal character series. And let me know what you guys also think of Thena. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys all have a good day.